Hey y'all, it's Whit again with another Slater session. This morning I just wanted to walk through really quickly something that I find myself using Slater for relatively often, and that's to create GSAP-driven animations on things like collection items. So Webflow interactions, native interactions are awesome. There's so much you can do with it. GSAP sometimes gives you a little bit more fine-tuning, control over things, and it's honestly just a really fun library to explore. So let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to do is go over and we're going to set up a simple CMS collection. So let's make our first collection. This is going to be called My Collection. And we're going to add a couple of fields, one for an image and one for a caption. And once we got those all set, we'll create our collection and let's give it some dummy data to start. And all good. Okay. So next thing we want to do is set up our page so we can display this. So we'll get our collection list out, tie that to my collection, and then within this, we are going to want to add a couple of things in our collection item so we can see both our image. We'll get that from the image field, and then we're going to also add a quick text block, and we'll tie that to our caption. And we'll just give it a little bit of style. I've already set up some of these classes, but I'm going to do collection wrapper as my kind of top level class. That's going to be a grid 4 across, pretty straightforward. And then on our individual items, I'm going to give this a class of collection item. And this is what we're going to attach our GSAP animation to. All right, so that's great. So now let's go back over to Slater, and we're going to give it a prompt that I've actually pre-written. I don't want y'all to have to watch me type. But the gist of it is, please write some GSAP code to stagger animate Webflow collection items as they become visible in the browser. I'd like them to animate in over the course of 1 second with ease and out quad easing, which is my favorite easing equation. Please use the collection item class for the animation. That's telling it to look for that. I also need set the stagger for 0.1 seconds, and also need the script reference to load. And so we'll do that. Looks like it double pasted. And go ahead and send that as a chat. While it's doing that, I'm just going to grab my script tag and bring that over into Slater. And we'll take this down here and paste that in. And we're gonna, when we get the GSAP script tag, we want to put that before the Slater. Basically, you want the Slater script to load after pretty much everything else is loaded in this case. And there may be different cases for that in the future. But we'll go ahead and save that, and let's see how our chatbot's doing. And it looks like it's still thinking. And in just a sec, we should have a response that we can drag into our JavaScript file. One of the things that I've found is that with prompting, keeping it like a dialogue is a great way to go. So we have a few things going on here. This is going to give us our script tag. It looks like it actually brought these over as HTML. So we want to make sure we remove these script tags, but I'm going to pull this guy out, bring our script tag over into our Webflow project for GSAP. I'm going to paste this in before the close body tag. So we'll set that to save, and then we'll go back over to Slater and just clean this up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and just remove some of this, and this is part of it. Like, we kind of have to work with what we get. But again, so we're kind of checking it out. It has our initial position. I'm actually going to adjust. I want to make it move from 100 to 0. Duration is 1 second. That's probably a little long, so maybe make that 0.5. And we do have our stagger of 0.1. And let's see what it does. All right, so if I save this, Command S or Control S on Windows, and then Command 3 or Control 3 on Windows. And we'll go over to our Slater session site, make sure this has been published, and we'll see what it does. And I bring this in, I'm going to go ahead and refresh, and there we go. So we've got a stagger animation based on that with not a whole lot of code. Now, once I've got that in Slater, I can go in and I can make tweaks to whatever. So let's say I want to make it move like a long way. So I'll make it, maybe start it at 1,000, go 1,000 to 0, and we'll do it over the course of 1 second because it's going a lot further. And let's see how that looks. Again, Command or Control S, Command or Control 3, and we will go ahead and check and see how this looks. Yeah, it's a little it's a little extreme, but also kind of cool. So, you know, some of it is really just getting in and playing with some of this stuff, but it is a great way to learn the syntax of GSAP and things like that. You do kind of have to keep an eye out for what comes back through, because again, what Slater's doing is embedding the script in Webflow, and so you really don't need these script tags like you would normally if you were working in the Webflow JavaScript panel. You would include those before this code. So some of it is kind of getting familiar with that. Some of it's making tweaks. You can also adjust this. So if I say, like if I wanted to, instead of manually setting those parameters, if I wanted to set them via a prompt, I could say, okay, great, please rewrite this code to animate in over 0.25 seconds. And we'll just do ease out, easing, and a stagger of, why don't we say, I don't know, 0.15 seconds. And we'll just let that regenerate and take just a sec. It does a really good job of explaining kind of what the code is doing as well, which is pretty cool. So it'll tell you, you know, what it's doing with query selector all, what it's doing with the loop, and again, it's using a simple for each loop. It's also pretty familiar with the native GSAP syntax and the GSAP documentation, so you can pass it pretty much anything. You can ask it questions about how you might do something in GSAP. It can provide suggestions. You know, all in all, very cool. So here's our updated code. Again, came back with script tags, but that's okay. We know we don't need to hang on to those. So I'm going to grab this. I'll just clear this out and drag these guys over. We've already embedded our GSAP script, so I'll just kill this piece as well as the opening script tag and closing script tag. And let's see, Command S or Control S and Command 3, Control 3, and load that up. And we'll see how that runs. All right, cool. So it adjusted that based on the stagger. But again, you know, you got a pretty cool and relatively complex animation to write using GSAP written for you. And Slater did it, and it's all connected to Webflow, drag and drop code. So I encourage everyone to get in and play around with it and see what you can make. Check out the GSAP documentation. It is really a phenomenal platform, and there's so much you can do with it. And it really becomes interesting when you think about using it in the context of collection items and other kind of data-driven uses. So thanks, and I hope to see you again soon, and we'll see you out there.